Today we are talking about multiplying and dividing by the powers of 10. So powers of 10 include 1 and 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, continuing on up to 1 million, and so on and so forth. It can also include decimals, so 1/10, 1/100th, and so on there. We are going to focus on multiplying and dividing positive whole number powers of 10. So let's get started. When we have our multiplying by or dividing by a power of 10, there's two parts. We have our symbol, in this case multiplying or dividing, and then we have what power of 10. Each of those parts tells us something different. So the symbol here, that multiplying or that dividing, tells us which direction our decimal is going to move. So when we're multiplying, our number is going to get larger. So therefore, our decimal moves to the right to give us a bigger number. When we are dividing, our number is going to be getting smaller. So therefore, we move the decimal to the left. So the division tells us to move to the left. The multiplication here tells us to move to the right. The power of 10 tells us how many times our decimal needs to move. So if we have 10, we move our decimal 1 time. When it's 100, we move our decimal 2 times. 1,000, we move it 3 times. A trick to help us with that is the amount of zeros. When there is 1 0, so we have 10, we move the decimal 1 spot. 1 0, we move it 1 spot. When we have 100 with 2 zeros, we move the decimal 2 spots. With 1,000, we have 3 zeros, so therefore we move our decimal 3 places. And that's the same with division. So 1 0 means moving decimal 1 place, 2 zeros, 2 places, 3 zeros, 3 decimal places. So let's give it a try here. What you're going to do that I like to do every single time is 2 things. The first one is I like to read my problem and I like to circle which operation I am using. So in this case, I am multiplying. That automatically tells me that my decimal is going to move to the right. I'm going to rewrite my number here. And now I'm going to physically, with my marker, my pencil, move my decimal. Because there is 1 0, I move my decimal to the right 1 spot. I rewrite my new number like that. I can put the decimal point here at the end, or I do not have to. Choice is yours. Looking at number 2, again, I've got multiplication. Again, telling me that my decimal will move to the right. But this time, I've got 2 zeros, meaning that I'm going to move my decimal 1, 2 places. So when I rewrite my number, I've got that blank space there. So to fill in there, I always will put a 0. So 3 4/10 times 100 equals 340. 340 is 100 times larger than 3 4/10. Looking at the next problem, we've got 3 4/10, again multiplied by 1,000 this time. Again, those 3 zeros tell me that my answer needs to be 1,000 times bigger, and therefore I move my decimal 3 times. 3 4/10 multiplied by 1,000 will get me 3,400. So again, looking at what symbol we have and then determining how many places our decimal must move. Let's look at our division. Again, I want to make sure that I circle what my symbol is. I rewrite my problem here, and 3 4/10 divided by 10. So I know, because it's going to be divided, that it's actually going to get smaller, and therefore my decimal moves to the left. In this case, because we're dividing by 10, we move it 1 time. For letter B, this time we still divide, but now we're dividing by 100. So 3.4, I move my decimal twice. Here, I also now have a blank space that I need to put a 0 in. 0, So it's 0.034. But because I have that decimal here, I do want to add a 0 beforehand so I don't lose that decimal. All right, last one for this section. We also divide here, and we've got 1,000 this time. So I move my decimal 3 times. 2, 3. Now I've got, if you notice, if you plot your 0 down, or your decimal down, excuse me, you need 2 zeros, then your 3, 4. Again, I don't want to lose that decimal, so I will put a 0 here. So this is telling me that our number here is 1,000 times smaller than our number here. All right, so these are nice because we see the pattern as we divide by greater numbers, our numbers are getting smaller. And as we multiply by greater numbers, our numbers are getting larger. Down here, the patterns aren't there, which is why we want to make sure that we are circling our symbol. So here I've got multiplication. So immediately I know I'm moving my decimal to the right. I've got 14 and 8 tenths. Now I know I'm multiplying by 2, so I move my decimal 2 spots, getting me a total of 1,480. I do want to make sure that I get that 0 there because it's not 148. If I left that 0 off, that's not appropriate. So I got to make sure I fill in that empty space. And then I throw my comma in. Number 2, again, I'm going to go ahead and circle my symbol. This time I'm moving to the left because I'm dividing. 0 and 65 hundredths. I move my decimal 1 time because I am dividing by 10. That gets me 0.65 after my decimal. But so I don't lose my decimal, I put the 0 before. 2 more. We've got another division problem, again telling me that my decimal's moving to the left. I rewrite my number so I can physically see where I move my decimal. This time I divide by 1,000. 3 zeros means I move my decimal 3 times. 2, 3. I moved it to the left because I'm dividing. So now I plot my decimal down, and then I've got 2 zeros before my 2, 5, 4. Put my 0 down. There's my answer. And the last one for today, I've got another multiplication. So my decimal is going to move to the right. 38 times 100. So my answer needs to be 100 times bigger than 38. I move my decimal 1, 2. I need to fill in my decimals. And then because it's a whole number, I can place my decimal here or not. Here I must have a whole number, I must have a decimal because it's not a whole number. Here I can decide since it is.